In this video I'm going to be replacing a leaking valve cover gasket on a 2006 Chevrolet Impala LTZ with a 3.9 liter V6 motor. Alright, I'm going to go after this front gasket here. I'm going to undo the oil filler. And this cover comes off. Got a few things we're going to have to get out of the way in order to get to this gasket. We have to get this coolant line off and upper motor mount that's going to have to be disconnected. This dog bone motor mount is on with a 15mm bolt. So I don't lose track of the bolt, I'll put it back in there. Engine mount bracket, there's a bolt down here. I believe that one's also a 15mm. Need to loosen that so we can get that bracket out of the way to be able to get the valve cover off. And we're going to have to get the bolts out on this coolant line. There's one here and one underneath here. Just going to go ahead and take this dog bone all the way out. The bracket for these coolant lines, the bolt is right here. It's a 13mm. This coolant line runs to here and it's connected to this bracket right here. There's a 10mm nut on this thing. And right underneath it is another one. So get that one off. It's actually a stud. You just wiggle that back and forth and it comes out. Alright, so that's leaking. I've got a catch pan underneath the car to catch any coolant that's coming out of there. Alright, took the air cleaner off. Just undid the screw on this intake here and just moved the air box over. There are two 10mm bolts underneath the throttle body that are holding these coolant lines on. I'm going to take those off. That way I can move this coolant line a little easier. These are the two bolts down at the very bottom of this engine mount. You see one right there where my finger's pointing. And then I've got my ratchet on the other one, so they're kind of side by side. Alright, I got these two lower bolts out. The first one I used a 15mm socket, and the other I used this little angled wrench, 15mm. Alright, down there you can see that loosened bolt. It's a 15mm. That's the third bolt you have to get down there. Once I have loosened that, it's actually going through, I believe that's the air conditioner down there, the air conditioner compressor. Got it loosened up enough so it can lay out of the way. I was able to get the coolant line off the hose, and I unplugged the spark plugs and laid them in order to be able to get that out of the way. So now I have pretty well full access to the valve cover. I'll have to disconnect this, just push in this little white button here, wiggle, and it lifts off. Alright, now that that stuff's all out of the way, we can get to the valve cover bolts. There are just 4 bolts. Here, 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 and here, and these are 8mm. Alright, the valve cover gasket is kind of stuck in this little spot right here. Looks like there's a tab and then some silicone sealant right here. I'll have to clean that off real good. So I'll take some time and I'll clean around that gasket area and I'll scrape off the old putty. Give it a good clean. I want to get this surface nice and clean, get off any residue. That way the new gasket has a nice clean surface to seal against. I want to be careful not to damage the head, so you don't want to damage or nick that real bad. Then you'd have a pretty serious leak. So just be extra careful as you clean around that gasket area. Alright, I was going to wrap this up last night, but I didn't have the right gaskets, so I went in there and they got me the right part. It's VS50442R. Put this bad boy on. We'll button this up. Alright, now that we got the gasket in the valve cover and it's shaped to where it can only go in one way, I'll take my RTV sealant, and I'm going to go through here and just apply sealant where the intake gasket is. I'm going to take some medium strength thread locker, this blue stuff. I'm going to apply just a little bit on the threads of the valve cover bolts. Oops, that was a lot. Just put a little bit on there, keep those bolts from backing out. Alright, now I'm going to tighten these down just a little bit, and I'm going to do it in a crossing pattern so that it lays evenly. I'm going to torque these down to 88 inch-pounds. These back on. 10mm nuts. I'm going to put my coolant line back together. I reconnected the hose to this line. I'm going to slide this back into the mount there. Put my spark plugs back on. These are the 13mm bolts. This is the last one that goes through, down by the air conditioner, through the air conditioner bracket here. Thanks for watching. God bless.